The Gemara says in Tractate Shabbat on page 137. After all, in our parasha it says, and on the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. Right? A circumcision is performed on the 8th day. So it is stated in the book Makre Dardika that it is written in the Gemara in Tractate Shabbat on page 137, if one circumcises but does not uncover, it is as if he did not circumcise. The mohel first performs the cutting, and then he performs the mitzvah of uncovering. So the Gemara says, if one circumcises but does not uncover, it is as if he did not circumcise. The rabbis discussed, he says, who sanctified us, and so on. That is what? What does the mohel bless? And what does the father of the son bless? The Gemara now explains the blessings, right? Then the rabbi says, and it is difficult for me to understand why throughout the entire chapter the Talmud does not specify the text of the blessing, only here with this Mishnah. That is, before this Mishnah that states the blessing of the mohel and the blessing of the father of the son, the Gemara had already discussed the matter of circumcision. So seemingly, why did the Gemara not initially state what the blessings are? Only with this Mishnah of circumcising but not uncovering, suddenly the Gemara comes and discusses the topic of the blessings. This is how Amikri Dardaki asks. So he wrote to resolve, as found in the response of the Rashba, this will also lead us to many things. Interesting questions. He says, there are some commandments for which no blessing was instituted, like the commandments of charity, honoring father and mother. Your father asked you to make him a cup of tea. So seemingly you should now recite a blessing, right? Who sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us regarding the commandment of honoring parents or charity. A poor person comes to you, you give him 20 shekels for charity. So why shouldn't you recite a blessing before giving charity? Who sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us regarding the commandment of charity? And there are several other commandments for which people ask why no blessing was instituted. For example, the Gemara says that Ashtar Hamad. It says, why don't we recite a blessing on the positive commandment of burying the dead? After all, when someone passes away, not upon us, but dies at a good old age, we do not recite a blessing on the burial. The same thing, right? This is like the commandment of circumcision and redemption of the firstborn. There is a commandment. Why don't we recite a blessing? So this is how the Rashba presents it. He says, I saw in the responsa of Binyamin Ze'ev that he introduces and offers an explanation. Why for some commandments, as we mentioned, burial of the dead, charity, honoring parents, circumcision, and redemption of the firstborn, why was a blessing not instituted? He says that a commandment such as this, which even the righteous among the nations of the world fulfill. By the way, they do not fulfill them because they are commandments of God, but because they are rational commandments. Even so, the men of the great assembly did not institute a blessing for the fulfillment of such commandments. From now on, meaning commandments that are actions, even though it is a commandment, but the nations of the world also perform the burial of the dead. They also bury the dead, right? Charity, they also have the concept of giving. Not to the same degree as ours, but they have it. Procreation and reproduction they also do. True, they do not do it out of a sense of obligation to a commandment, but the action exists among them as well. So they did not establish a blessing for it. From now on and all. So now let's return to the question. Why did the Gemara, when it began to discuss the commandment of circumcision, not talk about the blessings? Only now, when it talks about circumcising and not about procreation, does the Gemara discuss the blessings, what the mohel blesses, what the father of the son blesses? So he answers, regarding the cases of children, it can be said that since even Arabs and Gibeonites are elevated, therefore there is no general blessing for Israel on this commandment. But now that it is taught in the Mishnah that one who circumcises but does not uncover is as if he did not circumcise. And it is known that Arabs and Gibeonites, thus the commandment of circumcision that we fulfill, there is nothing else in the world that fulfills it. From here the Talmud explains well the version of the circumcision blessing when the Gemara and on the commandment of circumcision. It did not speak about the blessings. Nations also circumcise. When? Uncircumcised, if not uncovered. Nations do not uncover. If this belongs most to Israel, then if these are examined, give him the protection of the nations.